All right. Ahead of Donald Trump's first remarks since the assassination attempt on him 5 days ago, there's been a lot of second guessing as to what the Secret Service did and didn't do, and no second guessing that it wasn't up to the job. And what my next guest has referred to, and others like him, as a fairly large epic fail. Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, he sits on the House Intelligence Committee. He is that committee's chairman. Chairman, very good to have you back.
Neil, thanks for having me.
I know there's a lot you can't say, and I certainly understand that, sir, but I did want to get to the bottom of what the Secret Service sort of botched on a large basis, because the bottom line is Kimberly Cheadle isn't going anywhere. She's not leaving. She said the buck stops with her, but she is not quitting. What do you think?
Well, I think President Biden needs to be pressured to fire her, because clearly she's not capable or up to the job. As you were just reporting before we went into the break, the briefing that senators and members of Congress received yesterday, the Secret Service, by their own timeline, identified that they had, before Donald Trump took the stage, identified the shooter as a threat, let Donald Trump take the stage anyway, and then didn't take him out, didn't give the order to shoot him until after Donald Trump himself was shot. There's a tremendous amount of explaining that needs to be done. The Oversight Committee will be hosting a hearing on Monday that I'll be in attendance for. But the failures are just outrageous.
You know, the FBI director will not be participating in a hearing next week. Now, I don't know that was by design or didn't want to risk anything getting released or known to the public. Or do you know anything about that?
No, I mean, I believe our committee is proceeding with the hearing, and okay. I think the scrutiny that needs to occur on all of these the timelines and the failures needs to go forward.
You talk about the timeline and what we knew about the shooter, but each day, as you know, Chairman, we find out a little bit more that is at the very least disturbing. There's some video and images that are coming that show, Thomas Crooks, wandering, meandering around the field. That got a lot of people's attention even before he was climbing on that roof. And yet repeated warnings and sightings were ignored. Do we know anything more about that?
No, and as we received the briefings yesterday and asked additional questions, they had no good answers. With also the reported threats that had been identified as coming from Iran. I asked the FBI director yesterday. This had been a known and existing and continuing threat from Iran, not just the reported recent circumstances that confirms that threat is there. And why wasn't this already baked into the security situation, which certainly would have made it much more difficult for this shooter to have gotten to his target? And the FBI director said that his understanding was that it should have been. So still, the failures do fall to the Secret Service. They need fixed. I don't think this director can do so. And if she's not going to step down, the president needs to fire her.
Chairman, in the meantime, there's been a lot of talk back and forth about this Iranian threat. And that we're told security was beefed up for the former president ahead of it, and to be ready for it. Now the assumption was that this was in place for his Pennsylvania appearance. Do you know if it was?
It doesn't appear that it was, and it doesn't appear that the issue of the state actor Iran's threat, or the fact that the border is open and there are known terrorists, people affiliated with terrorist groups and organizations that are in the country. Also, it seems as if that wasn't factored into the security footprint that they had. All of these issues really point to the Secret Service is failing, and the director needs to be fired if she's not going to resign, because this goes to the heart of whether or not we can protect Donald Trump, but also President Biden on this campaign trail.
As you know, Chairman, better than anyone, the Secret Service reports to Homeland Security as part of Homeland Security, and that, of course, was an invention after the 9/11 attacks to put all these various security agencies, operations under one umbrella. Looking back at that, do you think it got to be administratively crowded and possibly could lead to what we're seeing play out now?
I don't think this is a structure problem. I think this is a personnel problem. I think absolutely that the leadership has taken their eye off of their core mission. When you let Donald Trump take the stage and you know there's a threat out there, and you don't take the threat out until he has been shot, clearly you have lost your whole whole mission of protecting Donald Trump, former president, and President Biden.
So let me get your take on where this goes down, what you want to know first off and immediately. Obviously, there were security lapses here. We had very, wacky representations of why, the Secret Service didn't do a better job of following this guy and certainly looking at roof positions and the like. But the other issue here is future events by candidates of all sorts and whether we have to tighten security before we allow them to go forward. Where are you on that?
Well, I asked the FBI director if he was participating with the Secret Service in an independent review of the protocols that were in place. He certainly indicated that needs to go forward, that he has not currently been asked, even though the FBI is working the crime scene of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. But clearly, in addition to changes that need to happen in the personnel, the protocols need to be reviewed, the structure needs to be reviewed, so we can ensure that not only these presidential candidates and Donald Trump and President Biden are safe, but also the people who attend these. I mean, our condolences go out that a life was lost, but everyone who attends these events believes that they're in a heightened security situation and that they are safer because of that security, and clearly that was not the case.
Are you worried, Chairman, about copycat actions and inspiring, people who shouldn't be getting inspired?
Right, and I'm also concerned about the Iran threat, the terrorist threat, those that have been allowed to enter the country across the border that have affiliated ties with terrorist groups and organizations, including ISIS, the Iranian proxy groups that are here, copycats, and also just people on the extremes who may take actions that are violent for political purposes. We certainly saw that when the members of Congress at the baseball practice.
That's right.
And were shot at, and Steve Scalise himself was shot. That individual was a radical who was attempting to assassinate members of Congress. All of those things, I think, go together to show that this is an environment where we need the Secret Service functioning at the highest level, not at this disorganized lowest level that it's functioning at.
Congressman Mike Turner, thank you very much. I know you have your work and investigations cut out for you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.